Welcome to the Connected Teamwork podcast by Growth Leaders Network. How do we learn to truly thrive together? How do we stay connected to our authentic selves, each other, and our purpose as a team, especially when challenged? How do we unlock the deeper levels of group intelligence? Enjoy this episode of the Connected Teamwork podcast and learn practical tools to evolve the connectedness of your team to its next level.
Hello there, Carson Hetty. Welcome to this week's edition of Connected Teamwork. Today we're going to be talking about some things that are occasionally overlooked when it comes to connected teamwork. Look, teams are being tasked with doing more now than ever before in different ways. We're working in different ways, whether it's working remotely or resuming travel, coming together and kind of mixing what we've done historically with this new way of work. Also, innovation and technology is at a place that has really exceeded anywhere that it's been in recent years. Lots of new types of things are being pondered: how to leverage artificial intelligence and data, how to unlock better ways to not only meet our customers or those that we serve better, but also the support of our teams. Furthermore, we're going to talk about what it means to have connected teamwork. It's more than just that surface level interaction or that just showing up. How do we have a better connection, understanding the why, what makes people tick, what matters to the people that we touch and that we serve and that we support, and then how we occasionally overlook those types of things. I want to say thank you to everyone who's watching live. Feel free to throw comments in the chat. Glad to answer questions or spotlight any of your comments as we dig in today to this episode. So we always like to get started of, getting grounded on what is connected teamwork. And so, one of the big commonalities is we get the pleasure of talking with a lot of guests on this show. Number one, sharing vision and goals. A lot of times teams, even though we all have different perspectives of how we do what we do, we have different vision, different perspectives of how it could be done. Sometimes we bring our own experiences. Sometimes we bring our own baggage into these situations. And so it's really important to make sure that we're rallying behind common purpose and clear objectives. Where I've seen this work very effectively is when there is transparency. And this is transparency from a leadership perspective. The why behind what we're doing, but also that ability to ensure that voices and perspectives are heard. I know as an employee, I operate better when I'm told the why behind things and when my voice is heard. Even if what I propose or how I think something should be done, even when that isn't exactly what we do, I buy in. I buy in better when I know that my voice was heard and that I can be part of that vision. So understanding that and having that reaffirmation that I'm a part of the machine, of the engine, that really helps me tremendously. Having that ability for open communication. And as leaders, we can empower and enable this. I often encourage my team to go off and do what I like to call players only calls. Meet without me. Spend time gelling, talking about the things that matter. And then, even finding somebody who can kind of be a spokesperson for the group and come give me the readout, what's working, what's not. In fact, I learned on a previous team that I led that I was communicating with them more than they wanted. So I adjusted appropriately, starting to send more of a digest as opposed to just sending notes throughout the day of things that were top of mind. So understanding what that communication could and should look like. Connected teams have trust and they have accountability. And to develop trust, as it is the cornerstone of a successful team, takes time to do that. And as you all know, it can be unraveled relatively quickly. There's a lot of times that will come up that will challenge that trust. I know when I think of trusted colleagues, I think of people that almost have that cone of silence ability. And it's rare. It's rare to really have that ability to trust and rely on very dedicated colleagues. But even as a cohesive team, You've got to have a level of trust, knowing that everybody is going after that common mission, knowing that, trusting that, that is critical. That ensures that people collaborate more effectively when we know that everybody is operating with integrity. And furthermore, when we're able to hold each other accountable in a respectful way. And I find a lot of times the best way to do that is by owning your place. Right now, one of the books that I'm reading is Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. And it's phenomenal because it really shows from a leadership perspective, if something isn't working, I've got to own my part. It does nothing for me to point fingers, play the blame game, try to find the reason why things aren't working, or to, even point out somebody on my own team who isn't carrying their weight or doing what they're supposed to. Because at the end of the day, as a leader, I'm accountable for things to move forward, to communicate to people on my team why something is important, to make sure that they understand the right process. As a leader, you can never take for granted that somebody knows what to do or how to do it. And so digging in, sometimes rolling up your sleeves, those are the types of things that foster that culture of trust and accountability in what ultimately, hopefully, will become a connected team. The other thing that I think is of critical importance is empathy and understanding. I think I've not only realized this more as a leader, but also as a person, as I've advanced in time and experience, and especially had a family, have had kids, because you start to really understand some of these challenging things that we all go through. And while we're never going to completely fully understand some of the experiences that our colleagues or our leaders or the people on our team are having or have had, just being able to show up, to listen, not try to solve their problems, not try to diagnose, but to truly listen and to understand and figuring out what matters to those folks. Those are the types of things that we can do to foster connectedness in our team, empathizing with others' perspectives, understanding their experiences, seeking to understand. Those types of things are of critical importance, and frankly, celebrating the diversity of a team. A leader really sets the culture in motion of their team. And if you celebrate having a team of not only diverse backgrounds, but diverse perspectives, you create not only a sense of connectedness, but you also make yourself a destination team. I want people to look at the team I'm on and want to be a part of that team, knowing that their perspectives and their background and their experiences are not only going to be welcomed, but that they can come here and ultimately go where they want to go, get the experience that they need, get promoted. We talk so much to our team or other people that we work with about their journey. Where are we going together? Where do you want to be 5-10 years from now? How can I empower and enable that to happen as a leader? And guess what? Yes, I'm going to lose people on my team, ideally to promotion, or maybe they'll find another role that's better suited for them or something that is a step up. Ideally, my team and I have helped them get there. I think it's critical that we show that we sponsor and advocate for and evangelize for our people to go to better places. That is what helps make you a destination team. Yeah, I'd love to hear some thoughts from the audience on anything that you see that is critical to connected teamwork. But also, we're going to talk here momentarily about overlooked aspects that can strengthen team connection, things that we could and should be doing in the day-to-day. While the things that we've talked about up to this point really form the foundation of connected teamwork, there's a lot of things that sometimes we overlook, things that we could absolutely infuse into our day-to-day. One of the things that I like to say is that, it's often not massive shifts that need to be made in our processes or in the way that we do things. Often it's very small tweaks that make a very exponential difference in results, in culture, in the way that we operate. And so being mindful of that, I think, is of critical importance. We're going to take a quick break. Please feel free to post in the chat any questions, any comments, things that you're seeing, and not only as part of a connected team and things that are critical to your team working with connectedness, but also things that you think are overlooked in the day-to-day. We'll be right back after a short break.
You are listening to the Connected Teamwork podcast by Growth Leaders Network. Do you want to learn more about building the next level of connectedness in your team? Please contact Growth Leaders Network on LinkedIn. And now, back to the show.
Thank you so much for being with us today on the Connected Teamwork podcast. We meet every Monday at this time at noon Pacific, 2 o'clock Central. And next week, we'll be back to having a featured guest. If you'd like to be on the show in the future, please feel free to reach out to me or to Hilke Faber, my counterpart in the Connected Teamwork podcast. We'd love to have you. We've got many industry titans and leaders that have been on the show and will continue to be on the show. Today, not only are we getting grounded in what is connected teamwork and why is it important, but some of the often overlooked elements of connected teamwork are things that we could be doing as leaders and also as employees to improve connectedness with our team. Number one on that list today, shared experiences. Now, this isn't all about the working experience, right? This isn't all about the time that we spend in meetings or back-to-back on calls together. While these things are great, and while spending time in the trenches with your team helps to, build that camaraderie and build shared experiences that you'll tell for years to come together, engaging in activities even outside of work can also really build momentum. How many of us have been part of team building exercises? I know in the pandemic, obviously, we spent a lot of time in the virtual happy hour, but I also know that I've spent a lot of time in the escape rooms with teams, coming together, solving problems. And what's amazing is when you see the people that don't talk a lot on team calls, but they are some of the most outspoken or idea driven when it comes to those escape rooms. Go figure. It's amazing to see people, really come out of their element. And I think what's fascinating sometimes too is when you proactively solicit your team for feedback or insights or ideas about ways that you can build time together as a team. Every time before I get together with my team, I'll solicit my team because I want to know, what do they want to see? Is there something important that they would like to cover or be a part of? I think anytime too that I come into a brand new team that I've not led before, I also want to make sure that they're not feeling like they're starting over. I ask them, how do you want to be led? How do you want to spend time together? What are the things that you want to do with the team? What are the things that you want me to know about so that I can effectively integrate into this already existing team? Figuring out these things, what matters to them, what do they like to do, even favorite sports teams. Whenever we visit each other in person, I can't tell you how many times I've been able to go to some type of sporting event or some type of office gathering or even a volunteerism event with my team. And when you do those types of things, these shared experiences, not only do they create memories with that group, but they also strengthen relationships, and you find out things about these folks that you would not have known otherwise in the course of the normal day-to-day. Next up is recognition. We did a show recently specifically on kind of the fundamental elements of, appreciation and play. Now, in the gratitude and recognition bucket, I've got a colleague of mine, an old colleague that I used to work with, and this person used to say, recognition is free. And it's so true. It takes a moment sometimes just to send a note to someone and tell them that you appreciate them. Or let's say you were benefited by a session with someone that you work with, and they gave a great presentation, or they did you a favor and they presented to someone that you serve and support, or your customer or your team. Sending them a note takes seconds. Copying in their leadership. Sometimes I've copied in multiple levels of leadership of people that have supported me or my team in something. So let them know that they did a great job. You may likely have, internal tools where you can give recognition, give kudos. LinkedIn is another great place where you can give shout outs, tag people, giving recognition. It takes a second, but the impact lasts a long, long time. I don't know about you, but I know that I remember many, many of the examples of times where somebody reached out to me and genuinely expressed thanks for something that I had done. Sometimes whether it was in the normal course of my job and they felt I did it well, or when I did a favor. I get asked a lot of times to do special stretch projects. And these are things that many of us get asked to do, and many of us should look to do so that you can broaden your impact. And when you do that, you create new relationships. Taking that moment to express thanks goes a long, long way. Next, adaptability. One of the things that is sometimes overlooked is flexibility in today's environment, how essential it is to be adaptable, but also to understand as a leader or a colleague what others are going through. Not everybody's experience of things is the same. And so just because maybe you or I have been through many, many leadership changes, mergers and acquisitions, massive changes in the economy, doesn't mean that everybody else has had that same depth of experience. So teams that embrace flexibility, teams that can react and respond appropriately in certain situations, almost with that savvy experience of how to meet these situations where they are, or they can respond to evolving circumstances and they see the opportunity in these. Those types of things are super, super important. There's opportunity, not only in this, but the next segment that we're going to talk about, but a culture, furthermore, that has also evolved to embrace and value some type of work-life balance semblance. We could probably debate the terminology back and forth. I don't know that some of us believe that there's necessarily a necessity for an exact work-life balance, because let's call it what it is. I read somewhere where true balance is net zero. So obviously you're going to have some times where one is going to be more prevalent than the others. You want to make sure you're making quality investments and deposits in all of the relationships and all of the projects that matter to you. But knowing that everyone is going to have their own perspective in this realm, and being flexible and adaptable to that is going to be critical. Sometimes people are going to be able to do more from a working perspective. Some people are going to be able to do more from a working perspective. When I was in my 20s and I didn't have a wife or any kids, I obviously was able to dedicate a lot more working hours. But did that necessarily equate to quality? Did that necessarily mean that I was the best leader that I could be? No, because over time, I've also been able to realize and meet people where they are better, because I've had experiences that are more similar to them. And I've been adaptable in my multiple different types of hats I've worn, and also in situations of teams that I've been a part of. Now, the next segment is conflict resolution. An area that's often overlooked there is where the opportunity actually exists within conflict resolution. Sometimes we will shy away from or tend to try to stray away from the tough conversation, the challenging conversation. But the reality of the matter is conflict is inevitable in every team setting. You're always going to have situations where conflict arises. Now, ideally, as a leader, we can show up in a way that it gets across to our team that we value what matters to them, that we understand and we can listen to, especially if it's a conflict on the team. But oftentimes there's going to be conflict where it could be someone from your team, someone from another team, or different types of conflicts that transpire between our groups or us and others, whether it's on our team or on different teams. This can happen in a number of ways. And I think the key element is to be open, and listen, to understand the perspective of others, to try to, in some cases, put the shoe on the other foot. I have always tried to look at conflicts as situations that I don't have to be reactive to. In fact, I don't want to be reactive to. I don't want to weigh in until I have all the facts. Even if I think I'm going to lean a certain way, it's critical that you make sure everyone's voice is heard that is involved. And you don't want to react very quickly, unless, of course, your decision is very time bound. But you don't want to react quickly, because then it doesn't give the impression that you fully weighed everyone's perspective and that you've given everyone their just due. Those are the types of things that are super important. You don't want to cause additional escalation. That's how you maintain trust and harmony within the team. Your decision, ultimately, at the end of the day, may not please everyone, but as far as if you are able to actively listen, and as we talked about earlier, make sure that everyone feels like their voice was heard. If there's any opportunity to find a way for compromise, if it's required that you are a mediator or ask someone else to be a mediator in these situations, these are the types of things that continue to ensure that connectedness, while sometimes things can feel disconnected, can get back to a semblance of connectedness. One of the last things that I think is often overlooked when it comes to connected teamwork is the necessity for continuous learning and growth. When you have connectedness within your team, one thing that I wrote an article about this recently, is almost that necessity for sharing best practices, but also going out and seeking them as well. Everybody brings to the table their own unique skills and superpowers and passions and things of that nature. And the last thing you want to do is operate siloed or as a lone wolf, or just keep your head down and do you. Don't get me wrong. There are often times where situations dictate that we, put our head down, buckle down, get our work done. But I will tell you that the most connected teams are the ones that are spending time together. They're sharing what they're learning. We have a segment on our team calls every week, and it's called "What Are You Learning?" And this was actually an idea that I picked up from somebody who worked on an old team of mine, and I still leverage it to this day. In fact, there's multiple things that I've picked up on from past team iterations and infused them into my current team. Number one, we have a DJ of the week. Every week we pick we vote collectively on somebody who did something great the prior week. It could be a great achievement. It could be something that they did in a stretch assignment. It could be something that they did to help their peers, picked up some extra work to carry the load when there was somebody out, whatever it is. And we nominate that person. They pick a song to kick off our team call. But the other one is called "What Are You Learning?" And this could be a podcast you're listening to. It could be a book you're reading. It could be a resource that you stumbled across last week that you want to share with the team. It's critical that we are looking for ways to share what we're learning with other people, because that's what makes us better. I've made an entire career off of going out and figuring out who's great at this, who's better than me at that. How can I figure out what they're doing and assimilate that into my arsenal? Those are the types of things that make us better. They make us exceed the sum of the parts. That's the whole 1 + 1 = 3 scenario, where we can build on each other's best practices. It doesn't take food off the table for you or me to do what the other is doing better than the other. And that's why it's so critical that we're sharing that. Any opportunities that we as leaders can create to provide opportunities for skill enhancement, for mentorship, that is another area where, when I do my annual reviews, my talent reviews with my teams, and do appraisals, being intentional about what mentors do they have. And especially if they don't have mentors, making sure that we're diving into that. I find so often I talk to people on my team that I lead that indicate like, hey, I really want to work on this or that, like my career walking deck, or going out and having informationals about other roles, or I want to work on finding mentors. And yet, time and time again, they don't do it because they get stuck in the day-to-day minutia. You get pulled in all these different directions. You got the fires that you've got to put out. And so sometimes we fail to invest in ourselves, in our learning, and in our growth, and in our advancement, in our career. Those types of things are super, super important. And if you don't have mentors today, work with your leadership team. There's a difference. I had a mentor of mine share recently with me about the distinct and stark differences between a manager, a mentor, and a sponsor. Your manager is the person you report to. A mentor is somebody that can guide you and give you advice and help you and maybe introduce you to other people. A sponsor is somebody who they're going to put you up for the promotion. They're going to put you in positions to win. They're going to support and advocate for you. Now, those three people can be the same person, but you also want to make sure that you have very intentionality around going out and defining roles for those three entities. I want to call out great comments. So Kathy, thank you so much for being on. So many people feel alone in their struggle when all it takes is open and honest connections to see that we all have similar struggles. So true. I have been amazed recently at some conversations that I've been able to start out on LinkedIn about things that I've grappled with. sometimes personal, sometimes very career focused, sometimes mistakes that I've made, sometimes things that I've learned. And it's amazing to me, the conversations that come out of that. If you know anything about me whatsoever, I'm very passionate about personal brand and the necessity for really creating and leveraging brand in a way that can propel us into meaningful work, meaningful conversations. It's helped my career infinitely. But one of the things that somebody really instilled in me years ago when it came to personal brand was, how can you leverage it to just start a dialogue? We all know things. Wherever you are in your career journey or in your life, you have experience that matters. Even if you're just starting out in your career, your experience matters. You're grappling with things and questions and situations that other people have grappled with or are grappling with or will grapple with. And that's why your perspective and your opinion matters so much. So seeking out those opportunities to meaningfully connect or to be a part of someone else's learning and growth, those things are so rewarding. Knowledge sharing strengthens your capabilities because it's a muscle. You're developing a muscle. You become better and better at delivering these things. To watch this show or to take this in, you might not know that I absolutely loathed being in speech class when I was younger. It made me nervous as all get out. I was very terrible at coming together and delivering materials and presentations in that form. But over time, like a muscle, you develop it, just like business acumen or being able to deliver a presentation to C-level or VP level, or being able to present up to your own leadership. Those types of things take time. Your experience matters, and making sure that you're looking proactively for ways that you can contribute to the growth of others. That is not only going to foster a culture of collaboration and innovation with the team, but it's going to make you better and more valuable to your team. In closing, I'd love to get any other thoughts. I thank you, so many of you, for being with us today on the live, and would love to get any thoughts, anything that you'd like to see on future episodes. If you'd like to be a guest on a future show, please feel free to reach out to me or to Hilke Faber. We will be back again next Monday at noon Pacific, 2 o'clock Central. Remember, connected teamwork is not a lofty ideal. It is something that we can put into practice and put into place every day, whether you are the leader or whether you're deciding to lead from every seat. You're a member of a team. Most of us are members of some sorts of team. And there's so much that we have control over when it comes to how we show up, what we contribute, and how we invest in relationships and in things that matter to us. Connected teamwork ultimately drives organizational success. I was really benefited a few years back by being a part of a couple of really high functioning teams. And in fact, that's where I met my co-host for this show, Hilke Faber, was during a training with a couple of our very high functioning teams. We were a part of a group called Culture Change Champions. And by coming together, I still talk to some of these folks from that team, even though I'm twice removed from that group. And I still talk to them very frequently because I know them better than many of my colleagues as a result of just going through experiences of talking about things we were grappling with, talking about things that were weighing us down, being able to acknowledge some of our limiting beliefs that we put on ourselves and we show up with every day. And sometimes we put a mask on ourselves to mask. But being able to be vulnerable with our team selectively, making sure that they understand what we're grappling with and what we're doing, those are the types of things that really matter when it comes to connected teamwork. Those are the highest of the high functioning teams because you trust each other. You know that everybody's going out after one mission. And even if we disagree, or even if we have different vantage points, we know we'll hear each other out. But we also know that when it's all said and done, we're going to go after things together and we're going to have each other's back. Those types of things are of critical importance because by cultivating trust, by having communication, by showing empathy, and also by having shared goals, that's how teams unlock their full potential. That's how remarkable outcomes are achieved. By also looking at some of those things that in the day-to-day, maybe that we talked about today, that we're not doing as much as we could, like recognizing other people, like embracing some of the differences that we have, by also looking at different things that we could do to adapt, to acknowledge the new playing field? What are the new variables that we're operating under? The more time we spend doing that together as a team, those are the types of things that make us super, super impactful. That's what develops team synergy. That's what takes and builds on individual brilliance and makes a connected team that can take the results through the stratosphere. I want to say thank you again for being a part of the journey today on Connected Teamwork. And until next time, my name is Carson Hetty. Really appreciate you being a part of the journey today. And we'd love to see you next time as a guest, as an audience member, or even just as a conversation. Always looking to learn from each other as we grow together on Connected Teamwork. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for listening to the Connected Teamwork podcast by Growth Leaders Network. Take a moment to reflect on what you learned today that can help build your team. Also, if you like, think about one of your team members and what you appreciate about them. Let them know. Enjoy connecting more deeply to what is great about them. And see you next time at the Connected Teamwork podcast.